Welcome to Season 3 of the Knack for Business podcast. Over 350 episodes strong, we're here to ignite your entrepreneurial spirit with fresh insights, networking gems, and creative strategies that elevate your game. Are you ready to discover what your Knack for Business truly is? Your hosts are Bernie Franzgrote from Creative Insight and Wayne Pratt from Motivate You Inc.
Today's topic is 4 truths that move humanity forward. Question for the audience. How can you align your business with a deeper purpose while still growing and staying profitable? That's what our guest is all about. Genevieve Piturro is a dynamic speaker, best-selling author, and purpose-driven leader whose journey from corporate success to nonprofit impact has inspired audiences across the nation. A former TV marketing executive, she made a life-changing pivot after a simple yet profound question from a 6-year-old girl in a shelter, which sparked her mission. She founded Pajama Program, a nationally recognized non-for-profit that has delivered over 8 million pajamas and books to children in need. As a TEDx speaker and creator of the Purpose Acer Leadership Program, Genevieve empowers individuals and organizations to embrace purpose, passion, and the power of human connection. She has authored 2 best-selling books, Purpose, Passion, and Pajamas, and Purpose, Passion, and Moxie, and has been featured on Oprah, CNN, GMA, The Wall Street Journal, and Forbes. Through her masterclass and national purpose summits, she continues to inspire leaders to align their goals with meaningful impact. When she's not on stage or writing, you'll likely find her by the ocean, embracing the next wave of inspiration. Genevieve, welcome. Do you have a favorite quote or saying, ma'am?
I love boldness has genius, power, and magic in it. Whatever you dream of, begin it now.
Do you have a tagline for your business?
Usually I say your purpose, your legacy. It's short and sweet, and people are starting to realize that what we do now is really what people will remember us for. It's the memories of us today, tomorrow, and next week that's important.
So your journey started with a single moment and a little wee gal in a shelter. Give us a context. What was wrapped around that moment that you go, hey, I've got an idea and let's rock this boat?
Sure. I was a TV exec. I always wanted to be a TV executive from watching Mary Tyler Moore's show as a child. And I did that for 12 years. And I was a workaholic. I was single, was in Manhattan. And one day, a voice in me, which I now call my heart voice, asked me, if this is the next 30 years of your life, is this enough? And that stopped me cold. And I realized in a moment, in 30 years, my life would have very little meaning except the things I could buy and the adventures I had that really were self-serving and helping others further their careers didn't have meaning. And I remembered seeing a news clip of children in a home where they were being hurt and police and social workers taking them out and bringing them to a shelter. So I called the shelters and I asked if I could come and read to the children at night after work. And I don't know what inspired me to do that, but I've learned in the last 25 years that those instincts are your heart telling you what to do. And I followed, thankfully. And when I read to the children at night, different children all the time, every week, it broke my heart to see that they were brought in obviously traumatized, that they hadn't been cared for, their clothes were not clean, it didn't fit. And while the shelter was a safe place, going to sleep there in their clothes was just something I couldn't get out of my mind when I first saw them going up to cots and futons, some of them crying. I asked if I could bring pajamas one night, and staff said, that'd be great. Nobody thinks of pajamas. So I did. And when I started handing them out after I read stories the next night, one little girl was so afraid of me, she just wouldn't take the pajamas. She kept backing off. And I kept trying to gently coax her into taking the pajamas, but she just shook her head no. She hardly said anything all night. And finally, I saw her watching me as I gave them to the other children, and I thought, let me try one more time. And I went over with a pink pair, hoped she would take. And I knelt down and asked her if she wanted to feel the pajamas, how soft they were. And I told her she could keep them. She never had to give them back. They were hers. And I tried one more time. I said, honey, do you want to take your pajamas? And she leaned in and asked me, what are pajamas? And that's what really broke my heart. I was stunned. I was just obsessed from that moment, thinking how many of these children are out there. I wanted to sweep her up and take her to my apartment. And it just wouldn't let go of my heart, that moment.
Have you ever had a chance to reach out to kids that you've made an impact with?
Did keep in touch with several over the years, not her. It was early on. I never even took notes. I had no idea what would become of pajama program. I don't even think I had a name for it, except that I went to visit and read stories and then eventually bring pajamas. So not her. And I wonder about her all the time. Others, yes. And sometimes I speak or I get a call or email and there's somebody who was in a shelter and remembers that. And I had a speaking engagement last year where after I finished, a woman came up to me and she was crying and she had her phone and she said, listen, and it was her sister. And her sister said, my sister is there listening to you speak. And she called me because we remember getting pajamas and that was you. And there's no word for that blessing that I received getting to see them and talk to them and just know that they were okay.
Genevieve, in over 300 podcasts. I guess you made me cry.
Oh,
It's all good.
yes.
Here's my first question. One thing I find about coaching is it's highly transactional. It's the bigger, I want a bigger boat, bigger house, bigger car, bigger whatever. And it isn't about purpose. It isn't about meaning. How did you fight back against that transactional push?
Two things. First, everybody in my world changed when I finally came clean and said what I wanted to do and wanted to make that change. Second, I got into financial disaster because I stopped caring about I was a shopper and I was not a saver. I racked up all my credit cards with pajamas and books. People would look at me in the store with carriages of pajamas and books asking me if I ran a camp or whatever. It took me a few years to get out of the financial mess, but it didn't stop me. It was the most powerful, heartfelt thing I could have ever experienced.
When you started down this path, you probably came across a couple of things where you had a perception of how this should run. And then all of a sudden you go, I got to adjust because you want to stay on course to the purpose. What are the misconceptions that people might have if they're doing something so that it'll save them some headache or heartache in the process? In other words, to be sustainable in what they're doing. What are the misconceptions they might have?
Don't grow too fast. You know how many people found out I was giving pajamas and books and said, why don't you give toothbrushes? Why don't you give some food? Why don't you give this? Why don't you give that? And really, the reason I started saying, no, I can only do pajamas and books was because it was only me. But even as we grew, I saw the simplicity, that the simplicity was something that could be replicated by as many people who wanted to help us as possible, and that every child would get the same 2 items. I didn't want to run into, we don't have enough blankets and we don't have enough toothbrushes. And so first I did it because it was just me and it's all I could handle. And then I saw the beauty in the simple gift. Because as anyone who gives gifts and who runs an organization where that's part of what they're doing, we're giving love. It took me a while to see that, for it to boil down to that's what it is. And the fact that the pajamas are comfy and cozy and warm helps, but it represents, all those words represent love. And the book is their imagination, lets their heart open. We prayed every time we gave the books that that's what it was doing. So stay simple, find your niche and own it.
Let's assume that everyone should have a purpose. And let's hope that purpose has an inner meaning, that it's actually meaningful. How do you balance that with paying your visa on Friday?
I think there are a lot of ways. Eventually, I found a CPA when I saw that it was going to be more than just me going to the shelters and that there was a way to pay rent because I was in arrears. I went to a CPA and I said, is this anything I can do? Because I need to make some money. And if there's a way for somebody starting out to work with a financial planner, at least you have an idea of how this could be a business. And all nonprofits are businesses. Every one of them is responsible for financials, and there's always a way. So when the way is outlined, there's a commitment. Once you are giving and serving, and once you accept that's your purpose, there are ways to follow your dream and to make the money you need to survive. You can do anything that's service and make millions of dollars. You can serve people and have a business, not a nonprofit. It's the service. It's the changing the world for the better part that, for me, is worth living for.
Are you driving right now, like a charitable donations, receiving donations? Do you have a supply chain now where you're getting pajamas so that you're not paying retail price, but wholesale price?
Yes, Mary, that came in the first few years, thankfully. Let me say, I am the founder of Pajama Program and ran it for the first 20 years. A few years ago, I wanted to speak because there were so many people who came to me and said that they wanted to make a change and find purpose. I wanted to inspire people to give, even if it wasn't a nonprofit. They wanted to switch careers because they weren't serving their heart's content. For the past few years, I've been speaking and writing about finding purpose and leading with love. So Pajama Program now, anyone who wants to find out how to connect now, it's pajamaprogram.org. And for me, it's myname.com. Yes, to answer your question, thankfully, I was able to meet a lot of people who led me and our team and our chapters around the U.S. to wholesalers and to manufacturers, Carter's, Scholastic, so many, and the list is on the website.
Part of your message is countercultural. We all hear about the power of one. You have the power of one another. Tell me about that.
So often before Pajama Program, I heard it too. People would say, the power of one's incredible. All you need is one person and one idea. For the first few years, when people started to learn about Pajama Program, some people would say that to me, look what you're doing, you're a power of one. And it didn't feel right, but I didn't have an answer. One day, somebody said that to me, and I said, you know what? It's not the power of one that changes things. It's the power of one another that moves mountains and moves people. And I stick by that. And I think people, for the most part, agree. Yes, it's one idea, but if I was all by myself, I would be still walking around like Santa with a sack of pajamas. So getting the job done is more than one person.
You had a career in the TV space. And some people, whether you're in corporate or whether you're in given business, feeling like you're almost you're in a rut, and you realize, hang on, I gotta change things up because it's not filling the inner souls. What advice would you have for someone in that boat?
Two things. First, on my website, GenevievePiturro.com, there's a button at the top that says, here's an exercise to help you find your purpose. So I suggest that. Go there. It'll ask you for 90 minutes of quiet time. You can have a glass of wine. You can have a cup of tea. You need paper and pen, no laptop, no typing. And that worked for me several times along the way. And then I also offer a consultation if anybody wants to talk about things. The bottom line is you need that quiet time to go into your heart and be honest with yourself, to write down. First, it starts with 10 things that you love to do. And people might shrug and say, I love reading. I love petting my dog. Write those things down. And then I do an exercise about feeling your body when you say each thing you love to do. Our bodies speak to us. Our hearts fill up and send the signal to the entire body. This is what I meant to do. And in that, there is something. There is work. There is money to be made so you are not homeless. There is a way to express your purpose.
One thing that a lot of our listeners are solopreneurs and business owners, and we drive a mission statement. You're actually getting me to expand my mind a little. How do you help them look at the mission statement and say, this is not about moving a product, or it's not about my bottom end. How do I make the world a better place? How do you get them to that eureka moment when they're going?
I think one of the women I met along the way had a company and made boxes. So you might think boxes, how's that touching people's hearts? But you have to look at what people are doing with boxes. You have to see how they help people move forward. There are all kinds of things that people need in life to make their lives easier. It might not be something that's so touching as helping a child or a senior or an animal, but I have moved several times. I laugh every time I order boxes or fill boxes and think, what would I do with all these boxes? Somebody made them, and I'm thankful. We're all thankful. Every time I see a moving truck, I laugh. There's always a way that there's not always a way, but if you look for a way that your product or your service makes something easier for someone, and you love that and lead with that, you're filling a niche that makes something better, easier.
Every time someone starts a new venture in a business, you might run into a stumbling block here and there. When you're starting out as a solopreneur or up and running, you hit certain moments, you hit brick walls that weren't anticipated. What were the biggest ones you encountered and how did you overcome them?
The first one I would say to that question, Bernie, is I didn't surround myself with my cheerleaders. At first, I didn't surround myself with anyone who knew what was really happening. In my book, one of the lessons is leave juggling to the clowns, because we are unfortunately humans with a lot of self-doubt and unworthiness and fear. And when you are all by yourself, the only one that's talking to you is your negative self. And that was a big mistake for me, and I think for all of us. So I say, round up your cheerleaders. Start telling people what your heart is asking you to do, and know that there might be naysayers. I have stories about naysayers that really set me back months and broke my heart. But I had to keep going because otherwise my negative self would just stop me cold. Surround yourself with cheerleaders. They're out there. They're people who care. Sometimes it's a stranger. I can't tell you how many strangers, when I told them about the little girl and why I was doing that, have become dear friends because what I was doing resonated with them. It helped them. It helped me. They were looking for something. Maybe it was love too. So surround yourself with cheerleaders and start talking.
I get a sense of it just from the 15 minutes we've been together. Tell me about Moxie.
Aha! Moxie's great. Moxie is that perseverance, that determination, that look at my face. It's all scrunched up. It's like, I'm going to do this. It's not a mild emotion. Comes from your gut. It comes from your heart. It's a combination of have to do this. I am challenging myself. Whatever's at stake, I'm going to own it. I'm going to get this done because I want this to fly. And I know I can do it. And it's just that, I guess it's grit. It comes from that soda years ago, which had a bitter taste, but it was also spiked with sweetness. So it's a sweet grit. I just love the word, and I don't think it's used enough.
It almost reminds me of eating spicy food. You have to have that moxie
Right.
to get in there. So several different points in time when you're about to leap into an area that you haven't done before. You did that initially when you left the corporate world and you started the program, right? You've been running for 20 years. Now you went into speaking. Was there any trepidation, any fear factor, whether it's self-doubt or I haven't done it before? Did you encounter any of that? And then if you did, how did you get past it?
At first, I was so excited, made the decision, and COVID hit. I had just put my website up and nothing was happening live, and everyone was stunned, including me. Yes, I was very afraid. My first book came out. It was in the middle of being written, and the due date was in August, right smack in the shutdown. I was just floored. I was afraid and didn't know what to do. I was paralyzed for a while, not knowing what to do because the timing was so bad, I thought. But my book is Purpose, Passion, and Pajamas: How to Transform Your Life, Embrace the Human Connection, and Lead with Meaning. And I didn't realize that it was just what a lot of people needed. So thankfully, there was a rainbow at the end of that rain because it really set me back. And then The speaking also was very slow, and I had to learn to speak virtually. We all had to learn to do more virtual. That was another hard time that I had to get through. And I'm still getting through that 2 steps back.
Where can we find the book, by the way?
Amazon, more about it is on my website. Purple Passion and Moxie.
I got that one. Something that you've alluded to, but I can be a little bit bolder. I hear a divine inspiration in this. Can you tell me about how that led for you?
My divine whispers.
Yes.
First, that came to me, if this is the next 30 years of your life, is this enough? That came out of nowhere. It felt like out of nowhere, but it came from my heart. It was a whisper, but clear. I could hear it. And I acted on it without even mulling it over. And I've heard several since. One of them I can tell you has brought me to today. A couple of years in, amidst the difficult time of trying to grow it and not having an income and just doing whatever I could without paying attention to the bills and the collections, I heard another voice in me. And a lot of us hear it in that state between waking and sleeping, just as you're going to sleep or just as you're getting up. And I heard, it's about love. Now, that was about 15 to 17 years ago. And that made me believe that it was the right thing to continue, because it wasn't about giving the kids articles of clothing. It was about love. And I couldn't turn away that responsibility. So I kept going. And I think now I speak about leading with love. It's about love, and everything's about love. My mom passed in September, 89 years old. And someone smart said to me, ask her if she has any life advice. My mom was coming in and out of consciousness. And I asked her, held her hand, and her eyes were closed. And I said, Mom, do you have any life advice for me? And you know, she took a few, maybe 10, 15 seconds of silence. And without opening her eyes, she said, remember the love. That was a message for me, not to forget. Everything's about love. What I was doing was about love. People who were helping were doing it because they felt love, and it moves people. And I think we're at a time where leaders are leading with love, and I want to be one of them, and I want to inspire people so that they don't feel alone, and so they can see what can be done to be a voice that moves the world through love.
You're on TEDx, you've written books, you have a message. To craft that message, you have to reach the audience and strike a chord. The art of storytelling captures the mind, the imagination, and the heart. How did you evolve that? Is that something from your previous corporate life, or is that something that you see the story and then it's not fabrication, but it's because you're recalling the actual events as they transpire and the observations. How did you craft that story so that it goes boom?
I was in marketing, but I didn't realize that doing everything myself, including staying up till all hours of the night 25 years ago, making brochures on a laptop, was thanks to the marketing history that I had. The story I didn't tell for quite a while, and that was to the detriment of our growth when it was just me. Because what I realized when I was brave enough to tell the story, I asked a girlfriend to have a drink, and I wanted to tell her that I was thinking about leaving my career to give pajamas and books to children, because this little girl I met in the shelter, she was the first one I ever said anything to. And she knocked me right down. She said, are you crazy? You can't make any money. You 12 years invested in this. You're on your way to the executive team. Why would you do this? Can't you do that on Saturday? Just bring pajamas on Saturday. So I shut up for 6 months. And it wasn't until I met a man I was dating where I realized I better come clean, because he's going to think we're going to be a 2-income relationship. And I have a feeling it's not going to be that way. And he said, go for it. I realized that there were people I could trust that wouldn't say what my friend said, that would say more along the lines of what this man said, this heartfelt man. And so the more people I was brave enough to tell, their reactions to the story helped me in my telling of it so that I could discern the people's reactions to mean that's nice, good luck, or that's nice, I feel it too, and I want to help. It was the reactions that I received in telling the story that I could see where I was touching a chord the same way that little girl touched me. And I swear to you, I channeled her every time, and I still do.
Tell me about the ACER program.
As a leader, I realized that the way I was able to attract people who wanted to help was different than the way I was led by a boss. I think a lot of us in the 70s, 80s, even 90s had bosses. You sat in a room, they told you what was going on, they gave you an assignment, you left and you did the assignment as you were told. But with Pajama Program, as the volunteers came and then the staff came, it was very collaborative because I wanted people to feel, well, the mission. I wanted people to feel the purpose. I wanted people to understand we were making a difference to children, but also to donors, also to families. It just automatically turned into a collaborative leadership style with love always leading. I think that's where we're going because there's such disconnect, and what brings people together is common purpose, or at least understanding from the leader what people are looking for that are on the team and trying to help them find their place to contribute. And also for the team to understand the vision and decide if this is a vision the leader has that they want to be part of.
The one lesson you didn't expect running a purpose-driven business.
One lesson I didn't expect: to cry on stage when I speak. I have a hard time with several parts of my story, especially when I can see the audience. I know the parts that still feel like it was yesterday to me. If they feel that too, the silence is deafening. And I feel like everyone's hearts, including mine, are exposed. So not only am I feeling the pain of that little girl, but I'm feeling the pain of all of us who understand and feel that. And I think we feel it because all of us have that hole in our hearts for some reason. And that's the common thread. And I feel that. And I think people feel mine. And I never thought that I would be releasing so much emotion coming from a world where emotion was not allowed in the business world. And I'm still surprised when I take that stand. I say a prayer and I say, just let me, if I start to cry, just let me be able to stop.
If a business is looking to integrate this, they see a cause that's worthy. Some businesses become social enterprises. So the cause is primary. You have stakeholders, shareholders concerned, but they're not the prime concern. The prime concern is the social cause. But if you are a business and you want to do a good deed, is it more like just here's some money and plug it in, or a bit more crafted message? How's the best way for a business to put themselves in and engage with what they want to support?
Yes, definitely more organizations are engaging in the mission and purpose locally, and wherever they have their chapters or offices, they are finding a way to bring that organization into their business by volunteering with their staff or by getting to know what they're doing on a daily basis, on-site visits, and feeling like they're really a partner, not just a person handing a check. It's very important, and companies are doing this, to ask the employees. And maybe a lot of them are rotating what they give to or including what their employees care about. That's key. Otherwise, nobody's going to go and volunteer if you're doing something from one type of organization and you didn't check it. That's not number one on their list or even number two. So I think, yes, get involved, invite them to be part of your organization and ask if you can participate. And second, see what your team cares about and how to make your giving represent that.
Sometimes when people talk, I love when they say, "Oh, I'd love to." And I stop them often and say, "No, you wish to." There's absolutely nothing backing that. How do you help them combine resilience with that purpose so that it isn't just they've not confused it with the tooth fairy?
Are you talking about someone who wants to start something or change a career, or somebody who wants to give to an organization?
Any of those.
Oh, okay. If there's always a way. Not only do you have to jump like I did and change your career, you can slide in what your heart and your passion is. So if you are a CPA and have been for 20 years, but you really love to sing or cook, we explore ways to slide in your passion. Maybe you haven't taken any singing lessons, or say you don't have any time. There's a way to find places where you can sing. You can take lessons. You can do so many things that people just don't make the time to explore. And I can help direct those things and give them a breather. They don't have to just be looking at jumping off the corporate ladder and telling the world, I am not an accountant, I am a singer. There's a way to slide that into your life, and it's very fulfilling for a lot of people. And it's enough because you have not pushed it farther back on the back burner. For somebody who wants to explore where their heart is and where they want to make a difference, there are so many ways to give and so many different people and animals to pour your heart into. It's about exploring where you want to make the world a better place.
Your charity, is it national or just local to you in New York?
The Pajama Program is national with 40-some chapters around the U.S., and everything is on pajamaprogram.org, including your local chapter and how giving stays locally.
So how does a person, if they wanted to support this, they're listening to this, and either having worked in a healthcare institution, we had the auxiliary, and next thing you know, they'd be knitting little for infants and stuff like that, little hats and stuff like that. If someone wants to support this program, how would they engage? Is it product? Is it money? Is it time? What are you looking for?
All of that. So if you go to pajamaprogram.org and go to the chapter, see if there's a chapter by you, there will be a contact for you in the area that you're looking for, or a national that will help you if you're doing a drive where in your local area to bring what you've collected, new pajamas and new books. If there's a possibility to volunteer, go to the website and look for the chapters and start there.
Are you ready for Canadian pajamas?
Lumberjack, I'm okay.
That's great. Pajamaprogram.org should have all that information. If not, certainly reach out to me.
If you wanted to leave advice for the audience, like there's a couple of top points, either you're in business or all of a sudden you found a new passion, a purpose, and you're going to shift gears, totally pivot from what you're doing or do a makeover in life. What top points would you want to leave with people if they want to engage their passionate project to help other people?
I would say first, it sounds like this person is listening to his or her heart voice, and that's the first thing. So feel connected to your heart and know with all of your heart that this is what you're meant to do, whether it's full-time or part-time. As soon as those doubts come in and you're embarrassed to tell anybody, or you feel like you don't know anything about it and nobody's going to take you seriously, all those doubts and you can't do it come up, keep moving forward. Keep finding out what you can do to help, who you can get to know. Keep going, because your heart and your head are different, right? Your head's going to tell you, for safety reasons, all the things you can and can't do. And your heart's going to say, this is yours to do. You were meant to do this. Just keep going. I promise you'll find a way. And the more you keep listening to your heart, you keep going, you will feel a switch one day where your head will stop. And you'll feel like your head is saying to you, okay, I tried to warn her or him. Clearly, they're doing it anyway, so I'm really smart, and it switches. And it's a real moment. And I hear that a lot. It happened to me, and I teach that will happen. And then things start to fall into place. But that's because you're leading and you're giving your heart permission to lead and you're letting your head know, thanks for trying to keep me safe. I got this. Now can you help? So that's the first thing. That's going to switch, and that's a big day. Second is live with integrity outside yourself. So if you are thinking about changing, make sure you're changing because no matter what you're doing, nonprofit or another business, you're putting your service and your desire to make the world a better place and contribute something good as your priority. So live with integrity outside of yourself. And then always remember the human connection is your greatest tool. It's our greatest tool, and it's never used enough. And not enough of us embrace it. We're afraid, we're embarrassed, we don't want to look stupid, we think people aren't going to help us, we don't know who to call. Reach out, call a stranger, ask everybody. 6 degrees of separation is just the beginning. The human connection is magic.
You've already alluded to it, but what's the best way to get a hold of you, Genevieve?
GenevievePiturro.com is my website. Everything is there. I'm on all the social medias. And you can just sign up for my newsletter there too. It's Leading with Love Tips from a Friend. And it's about the things that we can do to bring our teams together. And a lot of them are fun and a lot of them are inspirational. So there's a lot out there for us to do together as a community in leadership.
I want to say thank you to Genevieve Piturro, my co-host Wayne Pratt, and you, the Knack for Business listeners. If you're interested in understanding more about getting pajamas to kids in need, get hold of Genevieve. In fact, if you're interested in just starting up a passion project, helping someone in the community and looking to grow it, reach out and she'll be more than glad to have that conversation. There might be some collaborations to be had.
To reach the podcast hosts, email them at info@creativeinsight.com or by the website creativeinsight.com, spelled KREATINSIG.com. To reach Wayne at his email, wayne@motive8u.ca, that is MOTIVE, the numeral 8 and the letter U.ca, or his website, motive8u.ca. If you would like to be a guest on this podcast and share your knowledge, let us know. We would also appreciate your feedback on the content or format. Check the show notes for more details. For these podcasts, we like to acknowledge the support and thanks to the following people. Carl Richards from Podcast Solutions Made Simple, a renowned podcast expert. Fred Crouch, who is the Property Wizard podcaster, where Bernie is a co-host. Jovan Strika from Hive, a co-working space that is more than just a space. And Melanie Weber, Bernie's invaluable business partner. And Wayne Pratt from Motive 8U Inc., who serves as both a coach and co-host of these podcasts. Disclaimer, please note that the Knack for Business podcast episodes are meant solely for educational and general informational purposes. The information and opinions contained within are not intended to be professional advice on any subject matter. The thoughts, views, and opinions expressed by the participants are their own personal beliefs and do not represent the views of the podcast hosts or any affiliated organizations. It is important to note that this podcast is not a replacement for consulting with certified experts in your area who possess knowledge of your unique situation. The hosts of the podcast, along with any participants or affiliated groups, do not take responsibility for any actions taken or not taken based on the information presented in this episode. It is highly recommended that individuals seek guidance from their own personal advisors in fields such as accounting, law, or other pertinent areas prior to undertaking any actions or making decisions that may impact their financial, legal, or other aspects of life.